Yes, sir.
What's going on, bro? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. How you feeling?
I'm good, and you?
Good, good, good. Already, man.
Yeah, damn.
Yeah, man.
How you been, bro?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Sun is shining. It's a blessed day.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
This
man.
our this our I know it ain't like face to face physically, but this our first time. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yes. Yeah, man. I've been a fan for a minute.
I appreciate it, bro.
Yeah. So yeah, man, we're gonna get right into it. My name is
Yeah.
Tarami, and I run a brand called Drumz Uhuru. And the whole premise and focus, mission and vision is to elevate and uplift, inspire, cultivate, and create spaces for musicians, creatives, artists in and of African diasporic folk traditions to conversate, collaborate, build, and really basically essentially just establish a standard, establish a sort of united front, so to speak, for what these art forms mean, what they carry, why we do them, and where we're going with them, right? Because it's a lot of changes happening in the world, very quickly, been happening for a minute. And I just kind of I think it's important for us to kind of come together and address these changes, and how they're coming out in the artistry, and as far as the traditional things, how we're using that technology, to kind of get through, right, and not just get through, but to thrive. So yeah, man,
For
I want to
sure.
ask you some questions about your experience, what you think on some things, and yeah, we'll just go from there.
Let's do it.
So, yeah. First, how did you get introduced to music? I know you're very well-rounded. So how did you get introduced to music and all the different musical forms that you practice?
My mother. My mother is my introduction to all of this. Um, my mother is a dancer, a drummer. She was raised by her mother, who is also a singer, dancer. Like my grandmother is like all around artist too. I actually most recently saw some pictures of her, and she was swagged out, African garb,
Ooh, yes,
in
sir.
it was a jazz group in New York. I think it might have been Harlem,
Okay.
but nonetheless, she was a part of this jazz ensemble. So that trickled down, so she
Yeah.
fed that to her daughters, my mother and my aunt, and they were a part of if I'm not mistaken, it still exists, but Manahan House Project or Manahan House Workshops, but I think it's Manahan House Project in New York. And that was crazy enough, full circle. It was a place that my grandmother took my mother and my aunt to, and they were a part. That's where they learned drum set, and it was like just different things to fuel kids in the community.
Yeah.
Uh, and the woman who owned, I'm not sure she still does, but the woman who owned Manahan House Project, her son Kenwood Denard ended up being one of my teachers when I went to school.
Oh, wow.
So his mother taught my mother, and he helped teach me.
Man.
So I
Wow.
say that to say the my matriarchal lineage, my grandmother and my mother, and my grandmother told me, that one of my great uncles, like he made a bass out of a tub, and so it kind of came, yeah, it's wild, right? It came from that space, from that place. So like my mother, my grandmother, like, and who knows? I don't know. I gotta learn more. But
Mm,
directly, that's who seeded it for me. That's how it started for me.
yeah.
And so that's just the overall musical,
Yeah. Man, that's lineage right there, man. That's
yeah,
history. So you basically didn't have a choice. You was gonna be a musician, an artist, a creative, some kind of way, somehow.
yeah, to some extent, because even with my siblings, my sister's a dancer, my brother plays bass.
Okay.
But they're not as engaged in it primarily as I am. But they still got that though, like you said, to that not having a choice, they still it's in us, even if we
Mhm.
decide to really like engage in it in a primarily or not, yeah, it was gonna be around.
Mhm. Yeah, man. Man, that's dope. That's dope. So as far as djembe goes, how did you start? I mean, I know your mother was like, so she taught you djembe, or did you have some other teachers that were kind of like guiding you, molding you?
So djembe starts with my mom again because my mother, a lot of my family, big majority of my family from Maryland. I was born in Maryland. I was born in Baltimore.
Mm.
So my mother was a part of Sankofa in the
Okay.
90s and be more. And so before I was born, I'm hearing Mines Yahuda play, Salim Ajanku Jamoke, like that era of Sankofa in the 90s. My mother was dancing there.
Wow.
So when I was born, these are the people who I was introduced to djembe by. And so they were all big brothers. So the bigger tier, the big brothers, Manesh Yahuda, Salim Ajanko Jamoke in Sankofa. And then there was closer to my experience was Timba Mkachwas and Jahi and Jabari, Jefferson and Zakia and Dwayne. And so that's who I saw. And that was my introduction and my pathway into djembe. So that's how it began for me.
Yeah, man, bro, that's deep, man, and it's so beautiful to come from like a lineage, to come from a legacy, and that's something that I've been kind of like reflecting on. Is you know, even though we're not necessarily from Guinea or Mali, we still come from a culture of doing this and been doing it, right? So it's like when we go back or when we connect with with teachers or we go back to the motherland, you know, we can provide that perspective and that value. And I think I remember Frankie, who's also out there in Atlanta, he was saying that, a lot of times the teachers that are African, they want to see what we can come up with, what are we developing, how are we speaking through the djembe. So that's dope, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I want to ask you about your latest project, Solely for My Soul. I love the project. It's dope. Very, very creative. I think there's nobody really out here with a sound quite like that. What inspired you to produce that work?
So I could give a direct solely for my soul answer just about the project, but just as an initiative, like initiator toward music in general and the creations for me have always been the fusing of these worlds. Literally what you just said, right? You said it was mentioned to you by Frankie that, Africans of the continent are also interested in what it is that we have, our approach, contribution, right? For us, regardless of the introduction to djembe being at a very young age or at an older age, once, and especially those that consume themselves and we really get involved into djembe, it's like we have no choice but to play a certain way because of the music we've been hearing since birth,
Mm,
before birth, before we were born.
mm-hmm.
Genetically in our DNA what our mothers and fathers were listening to, which then is passed on how we walk here, how we talk here. So
Yeah.
even in learning something to a T when it comes to any any djembe, anything, it's still going to be played with the approach and genetic expression that we have.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the initiating thing for me when it comes to music. So uh, I feel like I know I'm still exploring, but solely for my soul came because of the opportunities that I've been grateful to have, experiencing travel in different regards, from going across the world to play djembe or drum set, or man, I was in a space mentally where I felt I had to keep up with the idea of what it means to be successful and to achieve success. It's like, oh, you know, like my big brother Weedy, we had the opportunity to, his album came, you know, top 10 albums of 2021 in Time magazine.
Yes,
And so
sir.
think to a blessing to experience things like that. It put me mentally in a space at a point in time where I was just like, man, like I have to create something in order to achieve something. Like I have to
Mhm.
make something that will get me this type of opportunity or result. And I had to G check myself and say, that's not what I've ever done this for. I think it's a blessing to experience those things as a human during this lifetime. But the essence of what all of this is expands beyond this life. And so that's what I had to like just like remind myself to just be like, bro, like Weedy didn't make that music for that. It came from a certain place. You know, just like the greats, whether it be a Miles or a Pharrell, a Kanye.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
initially, this music comes from a place that is true to our experience, our life, our spirit. And so that's how my mother raised me. That's how my father has lived his life. So I had to remind myself that, and I'm like, man, nah, like I'm gonna do this solely for my soul. I'm going to do this from a place that is truly honoring what it is that I truly feel within myself and not making something for the idea of getting something out of it. Of course, we want something out of what we put in, but my initial seed is going to be from that place. So that's what sparked it. That's what spawned it. So I was just like, man, like, and the way that it feels and what I put into it came from that thought. But what I ended up speaking about was just what was happening in life during that time. But I still feel that I'm learning to fuse the drums and like the perfect marriage of how to like make this music, be me. But what is me? It's like it's djembe, it's hip hop, it's jazz, it's what I'm saying? It's like so
Yeah.
that's how it came about. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. That's such an inspiration to me. I'm not even gonna lie. You know,
Man.
wow. There's somebody that aspires to share my story, you know, develop my skill, develop my talent, and really, just provide value to the
Yeah,
community. That put a lot into perspective. So thank you.
man. Thank you.
Yeah. I wanna switch gears a little bit and go back to the djembe for a second. What makes somebody a djembefola? And I know it's a hot take. It's a hot take, especially in today's time. And there can be a lot of approaches, right? We have djembefolas, continentally, in West Africa. We have djembefolas here in America. Um, what makes somebody a djembefola? Is there a difference in that, depending on where you are or where you come from?
I can see it several ways, right? But I think at its core, what makes somebody a djembe fola is the same thing because a djembe fola is a musician. What makes somebody a musician? What makes somebody a carpenter? What makes somebody a mechanic, an artist? I see it as such. Honoring the craft, honoring its traditions, honoring its history, right? I think that's a first basis, right? That's first base. It's like to be something like anything, they'd be like, you gotta live, eat, breathe, shit. Like, what does it take to value something, right? To be something, to value it, there's a lifestyle that comes with it. There's a culture that comes with it. I could say that it's the same thing that we experience in real time. I love to correlate djembe with hip hop because I'm not sure if a lot of people see those correlations, but there are simultaneous hand in hand pathways that have been happening with hip hop and djembe, right? And what's happening right now is interesting. This question, what's happening right now in hip hop with Kendrick and the Drake thing is just like Kendrick's stance with honoring the culture. What does it mean to be an MC? What does it mean to be a part of the culture of hip hop? and
Yes.
what comes with that. Like there's one thing to rap and there's another thing to be a rapper. So that to be part, right? What does it mean to be a djembe fola? I think it's honoring that culture. It's honoring the culture of where djembe comes from, what djembe is a part of. It's honoring the people, honoring the language, doing as much because of us being born in America, our engagement and interaction and learning and bringing that on into our experiences. Like I, me learning more and more about our history and contribution to djembe has given me more confidence in the stance and playing djembe, right? But I don't know. I don't know. Would a person, a djembe fola from the continent, feel that there's always a stance where I will never be as much of a djembe fola as them because of the drum being from where they're from? So then here we are. What does it mean to be a djembe fola? It's like, am I seen the same way as a continental African by a continental African? You know what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, it's like I can't press that. But
Right.
what it means to be a djembe fola to me is like someone who is honoring djembe. What is djembe? Learning what it is, honoring what it is, and then is living what it is. So, and I see another aspect of pushing it forward because evolution
Mm.
is important. We can't disregard the reality that as much as we honor culture, things do evolve. So is that a part of being something, evolving it, and how so? So I don't
Yeah.
know if that's answering it because I feel like at a big point in time, and even up to that, I have so many conversations with a lot of my close brothers about djembe, and these are some of the questions I'm like, I tend to ask because of the way that, we might have been taught as Americans, as younger, it's just like, w- you know, I'm still dissecting and digging in to the depths in which a lot of people like to regulate certain things.
Yeah.
And so do I dig in my bag and say this is what it means to me? But at the same time, it's like you got to have that stance, but you also have to honor the way that it has been presented because it existed before you.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. Yeah, very well put. I think it's just like how you said, honoring the base of what it means, where it's coming from, and the why, and then upon that, applying our own experiences, our own like feelings and sentiment. Like, what does it mean to me? What does it mean over here? Right? Because this isn't necessarily a village. You know what I'm saying? This is a dance class. This is a performance. But we've been rehearsing, this for a minute. We see the kids come through and they're learning and growing and developing. You know what I'm saying? Like I came into this class or this rehearsal kind of in the funk and everybody's like on a high afterwards, and it's a full moon outside. So it's like all of that kind of like feeds into the conversation of what it means and what it's actually doing for us, as
right.
individuals, as creators and, for the larger community. So yeah, man, definitely. Definitely. I'm right in there with you. It's interesting you say hip hop and djembe. I definitely want to, explore that some more. That because I kind of see what you're saying for sure. So yeah, yeah, that's
And it's
cool.
like even the evolution of like rap itself and how at a earlier in its uh history, the flow is a lot more slower, right? And it's not that djembe was slow because there's different regions that have been playing differently for many, many. It's not about tempo, but I'm just saying, if we correlate certain flows to even the tuning of djembe and the relation to how things have gotten faster, tighter, and we look at the approach and the way that people rap over
Yeah,
time, and it's like,
got
that's
auto tune, voice manipulations.
yeah, man.
Interesting. Okay, interesting, interesting. I like that. So you are somebody that, from what I can tell, is involved in some dope collaborations. You already mentioned one. the great Baba Weedy Brahma. I also know that you going on tour with Erica Badu, the Queen Mother. So can you talk about your approach to collaborations, what that means to you? How do you approach that?
Well, with Weedy, it was always centered around djembe. Like meeting Weedy, my big brother Maness, he called my mother when I was in middle school, and he said one of his brothers were in town and that Munir needed to go see him. Like Munir needed to go check him out. And so that created that connection. So Weedy always gave a beautiful space for me to be free uh, and to explore the collaborative piece and the way that I've been drumming in Weedy's band stemmed from literally him being like, man, just do it. Go for it. Like, come on. So I'm playing Sangbon and I'm like, oh man, can I just bring like a cymbal? Yeah, man, bring the cymbal, man. Bring two cymbals. All right, then I bring two cymbals and the initiation of the Sangbon set even came collaboratively. We were at first time uh, we did Blue Note. Well, first time I did Blue Note with Weedy. And when we got to the stage, it was a snare and a kit. It was like a whole kit on the stage. And they asking what I need, and I was literally only there to play Sangbon. I was prepped to only play Sangbon. And I was like, hey, Weedy, you cool if I keep the snare? He like, man, keep the snare, keep the kick, keep the and I didn't do everything that time. I just kept the snare. But that was the inception of that approach to how I have been a part of and how we built up this sound that we've been working on. And
Yeah.
so the collaboration with Weedy has really just been, man, like it's just been free range. It's been free range. It's been a blessing for me because going to school, everything was divided before that moment outside of my personal self, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there were other people who have done these things and merged these things, but I'm in my body, you know? So
Mm-hmm.
my experience, this was the first time that I experienced the merger in this way. And so before that, a lot of things were divided. You in class, you playing djembe, right? I went to school, see these guys, or I go to church with some homies, and it's like they playing drum set and keys and bass this way. I don't see djembe over here, and I don't see these instruments that much over here. And hip hop was just hip hop. It was, you know, jazz was just like everything was like in that space. And of course, historically, there have been these experiences that I had briefly heard. Like my mother had a Mickey Hart CD. And my mother she took classes with Baba Olatunji. So certain experiences of certain types of music and the way that it was merging certain things crossed my path, but my engagement with them, it finally like really clicked as a participant when we put those drums together in that way and I was able to play all of these different styles in the music that was being created. So that's a long answer, but that's how the collaboration happened with Weedy.
Yeah.
Um, with Erica, I just be honoring the music. I'm honoring the music. I've, of course, listening to her before I ever, played with her. And my first gig, I pulled up with like Dunums. I was like, but I knew it wasn't just that.
My
So of course,
guy.
so learning congas and playing. So I had congas in there and the chimes and the whole like quote unquote percussion rig. But just knowing the importance of how djembe has been in my life, I found it of importance to make sure that djembe was present. And and that collaborative effort was already uh built in because of Frank Mocha. Frank
Mm.
Mocha was playing percussion and playing djembe in his band before I was. So the opportunity uh to play that way, he ended up playing drum set. And so now that gave two drummers with a G there to just be birthed. So that's how that collaborated, man.
Yeah, yeah, man. That's how it works, bro. That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. Family just coming together and like people being open to sending a new message, and to tapping back into the root and the source of what's really real, and to just let people kind of
Right.
do what they naturally do and express where they naturally coming from. Yeah, I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. She definitely open to it. Yeah.
So I know, Baba Weedy just had a trip to Mali. You were there. My brother Shamba was there. How was that experience?
Yeah. Man, it was great. Uh, I just soaking everything in, man. Soaking everything in. Got to be in the studio with some legends. I got to play with Kareem Koulibaly.
Oh
Like,
man.
bruh, you know, it's like some crazy music was made. Some crazy music was made. But just being there, that was my second time. And it's always a trip for me to embrace an experience that is told to you that you don't live on a daily because of the culture that we live on this soil, and to see it operating like it's just super casual in its context. And that's beautiful to me. You know what I mean? It's like just women rocking lapas. It's like you only gonna see that around certain people in a certain community in a certain environment here in America. Where that mug is like Adidas pants over there. Like it's just like it's like it is culture. And I think that's always a beautiful experience anywhere on the planet. But to see that there with djembe being the way it is in my life, like I'm very grateful to have experienced that. So it was dope, man. We was making music. We was making music, merging the worlds, bro. Like just being who and how we are.
Yeah,
Super beautiful. My son.
yeah. That's dope. That's dope. So I've been kind of sitting with this question. I wanted to ask you, how does rhythm inform you harmonically? I understand there's melody in the music, there's melody in the drums and the conversations, but is there what is your approach or I guess understanding in which you can manipulate harmony, solely through a rhythmical ensemble?
I don't know if this would be cliche to say, but they hit the James Brown. James Brown is just like, what instrument you play? This guy got saxophone. It's like drums. What instrument you play? It's like piano. Nope, drums. Like, nah, everybody play drums. All right. So the stance for drums because is it possible to play a note without rhythm?
No.
Like even the most Uh, like it would be like, is it a whole note? Is it just legato? Like, it's still rhythmically identifiable. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, it has been a translating piece to see rhythm like harmony. It's just like, and with djembe being my first instrument, it's always been melodic. Even though we don't treat djembe like it's something to an instrument with notes. There is no, oh, this is C. Like, yes, we could identify it if we get a tuner or what, play that again. But djembe is like, it's always been melody for me. Saka ding ding. Like, dunums. Ding 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 ding. Man, we was just in Mali and we had the opportunity to pull up on Boison's rehearsal, by City's rehearsal. And it was, bro, it was something they were playing. And the Dunum pattern, I looked at Weedy. Weedy was like, yeah, it's like it's bass, like bass. I'm like, exactly. Like it's just like Dum dum ding ding, dum dum ding dum ding ding dum dum. Like,
Mm, mm,
so for me, the approach has always been it hasn't been hard for me to hear the manipulation of harmony by way of rhythm because I don't think there's a difference. Literally, each drum can literally be tuned to any. It is tuned at a note.
yeah, yeah.
Like, so what we hearing is just not tuned to the same, pitch frequency as these other instruments to consider it something to say, this is a harmonic instrument. But like, are we singing right now? But
Hmm.
if we see somebody like Mono Neon, the bass player, who
Yeah.
has a microtonal bass, and he'll sit here and take people's, work, make videos on some memes where they're just like, he's just playing with buttons, and I said, and I don't even gonna do, and then it's like all of this is notes, all of this is music. So even though it's rhythm, because we're looking at contact, I think our focus is contact
Mm,
thing, but it's not the reality that the drum itself isn't still singing. You know what I'm saying?
mm,
So it's never been a thing for me which is why things like this have been separate before certain moments, right? People who don't see it as such won't approach it as such, you know? And that's why the beautiful, like, I love, being able to connect with people as drummers who know that, who feel that, and who because it's not just something to just beat now. And that's the difference. Everything be separate based on a way of thinking. This is why some people could just not think that a percussionist is a drummer and that a drummer should be considered in the same vein or fashion as certain other musical instruments.
right.
And so you stay in this pocket, but a lot of us stay in this pocket to the outside world of just like this off you're not, it's not a centered thing. It's just, yeah, like, yeah, do the play your little thing, just give us a little
Right.
thanks. Rather than like, no, like there's melody and language in this, so I, yeah, man, like
Yeah.
they
No,
do
that's
mean it sits a lot more with Kunga, like boom bing 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 ding 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 ding, like, yeah, so yeah, man.
yeah. Yeah, that's it, man. That's okay. That idea of separation, that definitely sparked a light bulb for me. Yeah. Cause I think my brief experience, I've experienced, people like just exactly what you just said, musicians, people not necessarily understanding the depth, the musicality in it, and just kind of, it's easy to just, roll it off. But
Right.
I think that's where we come in. That's our responsibility to sort of assert and demonstrate, just the levels and the depths and the ways that we can communicate and express. So yeah,
Absolute. Yeah.
what what are your goals as a musician and as a culture worker?
You said what's the last part you said?
Culture worker.
Cultural worker. Man, my goals, there's always desires, you know, things that I'm not gonna ignore that I want to achieve, right? I'm not gonna sit here and like just be like, I'm sure the everybody's correct answer is just like give to the community and that. But of course, how do I effectively share my experiences with my community though? And I'm in a place right now in my life where that is a big a big interest to me, right? I know we have those workers who are here to educate and teach, right? And education and teaching comes in many ways, but I'm talking about literal, like I'm gonna be here teaching these rhythms, and this is that's my path. Right now, I see my opportunity to share based on the blessings of being able to travel and do so. It's like my goal is to do this as much as I can until I'm told to make that turn to wherever that turn is because I'm learning and grabbing a lot of experiences through this that will allow me to then give back in a certain manner. And not that I have to wait, you know, but oftentimes I have seen the traditional, conventional means of giving back to the community in a classroom setting. And so that has always been one of my goals where I'm like, man, like I want to effectively, you know, share this. How do I share my experiences? And because that's all any of this is like who owns any of this? Culturally, yes. Culturally, yes. I'm not saying it's just recklessly anybody's if they want it, but man, my goal has been I'm gonna have me a center, but I want to be able to express and share the fusions of these worlds from the point of view specifically first for us here in
Mm,
America, because I see a lot of history that we have on our own soil that we don't
yes.
know.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
so a lot of history right now, my goal, one of my big goals is to learn more about a lot that is already here
Mm,
that many of us don't know,
mm.
but I know there's a lot of people who do. And so these stories have to be put together. And I think this is a very valuable time because we're in a place where, you know, politics, government, the state of the world at this point in time, it is of the utmost importance for us to know who and how we are based on what's going on. Like the value of now, the value of knowing where we are and what's at stake. So it's valuable to know our family's history, our family's lineage, like as much as I want to learn everything that, crosses my path, I want to make sure I know the lineage and history of my family, my people, and here on this land that I can then expand and correlate to things beyond our land. So that way we can then come together and truly figure out, not even just figure out, but that's figuring out what's the real deal working together. This history been happening. Humans been on this planet for far beyond what it's like nothing new under the sun. So what's the value in us knowing who we are so that way when we're working with everybody else from every other continent, country, it can be an effective thing. It could be an effective means. Who are we? How are we? So that's my main goal. Like everything I'm learning, I'm like, that's why my music is the way it is. It's like, what am I saying? And what has already been said. So what is my timing of saying this and the contributions of me having learned all of this stuff, this culture, that culture, that culture, and for what purpose, for what reason? So, you know, passing stuff on because we learned it and our parents or mentors taught us, that's one thing. But then it's just like, man, what does the family need? Like, what does the family need? So my goal honestly is still being revealed. Like what is the goal? Like what is the goal? Like I'm still learning and being revealed like what my family needs, my family history and lineage, and my existence right now is healing whatever wounds is, have been tossed up, the information having been learned and how it needs to be applied, in order to honor that so that way I can truly be of service to a community. How can I do that for a community if I can't do it for my family? So that's a
Man,
big that's a big goal. But then but I led with that by saying like, yeah, I got other goals. Like, yeah, I want to get this music out to as many people as possible. That is it's goals like that too, where it's just like, yeah, like I want to reach as many people with this music. I absolutely do.
yeah,
You know, and
yeah.
work with more people, produce for more people, more performances, more creations, make new rhythms, like all of
Yes.
so.
Man, Munir, thank you so much for your time, for your energy, for your charisma and perspective, man. It really means a lot. How can people learn more about you, get in touch with you, and support your work?
Man, everything is at Munir Zakee, MunirZakee. So everything is there. Solar Productions, from film to producing, music, everything. So at Munir Zakee on anything, you can find me.
For sure. Thank you so much, Munir. Take it easy,
Man,
man. Enjoy the rest of your day.
thank you, bro. Thank you for your patience too, man.
Nah, no worries, bro. It's all good.
For
Peace,
sure.
bro.
Peace.